call the meeting to order. Monday, the 7th of March, 2005, right at 7:03 p.m. This evening, we'll have the invocation by Pastor Howard Harden of the First Baptist Church of Homestead, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with the Police Explorers and Councilman Losner. Would you all please stand?
Our Lord and our God, we thank you for the privilege of living in a land that is free, and we acknowledge tonight that ultimately those freedoms come from you. We pray for those men and women here and abroad that are defending those freedoms. We pray that your hand of protection would be upon them. And we thank you for these civil servants that are here tonight who sacrifice so much and often without reward. We pray that you'd bless them with wisdom, not only in the decisions that are made, but even in the manner in which they are made. Most of all, we pray that you'd keep us mindful of our responsibilities, both to you as our Creator and also to our fellow man. For all these things I pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Harden, for coming out. Appreciate it. Councilman Losner, thank you, sir. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Bell, absent. Ms. Garner? Here. Mr. Hodge?
Here.
Mr. Losner?
Here.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mrs. Waldman, absent. Mayor Warren?
Here.
Mayor, check the Vice Mayor is downtown with some of our staff working on the annexation. We're going before the Planning and Advisory Board tonight, so she's down there attending that meeting.
And Councilwoman Waldman should be if she's running a little late. Any additions, deletions, or deferrals this evening?
None, Mayor.
Special presentation. Was Linda Canzanelli here? Okay. Do we have
Can we do the next presentation until Ms. Waldman gets here?
Ms. Waldman. Okay. Presentation of a check by Mr. Charles Albright to the Homestead Police Explorers. Councilman Porter.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'd like to present this check from the residents who participated in the Northgate Community Garage Sales last year. It's for the Police Explorers. We're very proud of them. They've had a community service record that's bar none, and they fostered some of the most efficient policemen I've ever seen.
$400. Very nice.
On behalf of the Police Explorers, we really appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to help out the community one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say this too.
On behalf of the Mayor and the Council, to the Police Explorers, Mr. Albright, really appreciate you guys supporting these Explorers. We've said it before, without the Explorers doing what they do for Homestead, I don't know if our police officers could do what's required. So to you guys, thank you. I'll give you a nice hand. Mr. Albright, can you step up here? They would like to get it. Okay.
Cheese. Thank you, Mr. Albright, and just let me reiterate what Councilman Porter said earlier. I know on Saturday morning, our Police Explorers had, I think, 3 events on Saturday morning. And let me tell you, those young people are everywhere and just make an invaluable contribution to all of the various organizations in Homestead. And we're so very proud of them and what they do for the city of Homestead day in and day out. So thank you all again for your service and your contribution. And thank you, Mr. Albright. Job well done. Thank you, sir. Consent agenda, the motion for approval?
So moved, Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Garner, second by Councilman Porter. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Public hearings, ordinance, land use items. Mr. Walpin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the quasi-judicial portion of the agenda, consisting of several quasi-judicial items this evening. All persons who desire to offer testimony on each of these items will have to be sworn in as witnesses by the Deputy City Clerk or a representative of the City Clerk's office. The City Council cannot consider any testimony unless it's the product of a person who has been sworn in and taken the oath of witnesses. Any person who testifies will be subject to cross-examination and must respond to cross-examination. At this time, I would remind the Council to disclose any ex-parte communications on any of the quasi-judicial items in accordance with the procedures of the City. Mr. Mayor, at this time, if the City Clerk's office could swear in any persons who desire to offer testimony on any of the quasi-judicial items. If all persons would raise your right hands for the administration of the oath of witnesses.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, for the first item, I'd like to turn this over to Susan Marthin for this item and the balance of the quasi-judicial items on the agenda. Susan, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the first thing we would like is your permission to take 6A1, or excuse me, 6B1 out of order. It is a legislative matter that needs to be approved prior to the quasi-judicial matter to which it relates.
You said 6B1 or 2?
6B1.
Okay.
And let me go ahead and read that for you. 6B1. A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a request to vacate a roadway and reserving to the city all rights over any needed public utility easements for a 35-foot wide portion of Southwest 304th Street, west of Southwest 137th Avenue, between Southwest 137th Avenue and the C-103 Canal as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move it, Mayor, for discussion.
Moved by Mr. Porter for discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hodge. Question, Mr. Porter?
I just saw where staff recommended approval, and I wanted to hear from staff and from the applicant. I had no particular problem there.
Good evening, Mr. Porter, Mayor and Council. Staff has looked at this and has approved it should go forward. There's no problems with this one. It's a minor half of a road for a short distance, and it again is becoming a utility easement, so we have no problem with it.
It dead ends of the canal, correct?
It actually dead ends just inside the property a short distance. If you look at the first one, you actually look at the picture itself, it's a very short distance of roadway.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome,
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman? Just arrived, okay. Mayor Warren?
Yes. And if there's no objection, then David, I'd like to go back to the item from Ms. Roman under special presentation. And that's the presentation of a plaque and a proclamation to Linda Canzanelli, Biscayne National Park Superintendent.
Twisted my ankle. Oh no! This is my friend. This is my friend Linda. I'm sorry for being late, but I got in traffic on the Palmetto, and then on top of everything else, I started to get out of my car rushing, and I twisted my ankle completely.
Safety first.
So here I am in high heels, and I'll just lean on her, as I've done many times in the past. This is our Linda. Linda's career started with the National Park Service, which began in 1977 at Boston National Historic Park. She has held positions of increasing responsibility at many national parks, including the National Historical Park in New Orleans, national parks in New York, Cape Cod, National Seashore, and the National Park Headquarters in Washington, D.C. Linda was honored in 1992 as the Superintendent of the Year for the North Atlantic region of the National Park Service. We were all very fortunate as Linda's next career move in July of 2000 brought her to Biscayne National Park as the Park Superintendent. I keep rubbing her. I don't want her to go. Her achievements while at Biscayne National Park include forming many successful partnerships between the Park Service and surrounding community and local groups. One project dear to my heart that she has been assisting with is the Park to Park Greenway project, and that will connect Biscayne National Park and Everglades National Park. We will miss Linda, but we wish her all the best as she continues her career as the Associate Regional Director of Park Operations for the National Park Service Northwest Regional Office in Philadelphia. Linda's been my friend. She supported us. She supported Homestead. And one day when we get that Park to Park, you got to come back.
I definitely.
And when we cut that ribbon across the beginning and the end, it's going to be a wonderful day for Homestead. I'd like to read a proclamation for Linda. Whereas Linda Canzanelli, correct? Almost?
Almost.
Canzanelli began her career with the National Park Service in 1977, whereas Linda has held many key National Park Service positions throughout the United States and was transferred to Biscayne National Park on July 16, 2000, and whereas Linda has provided valuable services throughout her career benefiting our national and historic parks and local communities, whereas Linda has also worked in partnership with non-national Park Service groups on complex and controversial issues to develop and achieve common goals, and whereas Linda will be acknowledged by the National Park Service staff, South Florida National Parks trustees, friends, and partners for her far-reaching successes in South Florida and her recent promotion as Associate Regional Director of Park Operations for the National Park Service Northeast Regional Office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on Thursday, March 3rd, 2005. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, do hereby proclaim Monday, March 7th, 2005, Linda Canzanelli Day in Homestead.
Thank you.
Just another little something. In appreciation to Linda for your dedication and contributions to our community and the National Park Service, March 7th, 2005, Mayor and Council, City Homestead. I'd like to present this to you so you can hang it in your new office and remember us when you look at it.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome, please.
I want to thank everybody. It's really been an honor to be down here. I'm glad that I chose not only to work at Biscayne National Park, but to be a resident of the city of Homestead. It's a wonderful city, and who knows, maybe this is where I'll retire. I really appreciate everything everybody's done, especially Judy, Kurt, the mayor. You've been wonderful to work with, and it really is a great partnership between the communities and the national parks here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Linda, don't forget, Homestead is home, so come back and see it. Great. All right, David.
That brings us back to the quasi-judicial agenda. 6A1, this is the item to which your road closure related. An ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of BDG Waterstone LLC for a rezoning from AU Agricultural Use District to R1 One Family District. Also granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for Grove at Waterstone, a 7.0-acre site consisting of 40 single-family units located at the northwest corner of Theoretical Southwest 304th Street and Southwest 137th Avenue is legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. And this is second reading.
Is there a motion for second reading?
Move second reading, Mayor.
Moved by Councilman Porter for second reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hodge. Any initial comments from council?
Can I ask one question?
Mr. Porter?
I was reading and the applicant requested some speed bumps in there. Is there any other way to calm traffic other than a speed bump or I don't know what they call it, speed bump, basically? Am I in the right place, or? I mean, I know it's a long, straight stretch of road.
Mr. Porter, members of council, it actually could be a textured surface to break up the difference as well, rather than a speed bump per se, and we can check on that.
But I mean, I'm not the traffic engineer. I just know that in some neighborhoods that's kind of it's kind of unsightly in the road. It'd be nice if there was a way to do it more aesthetically pleasing. Would it be a cobblestone? I don't know if that's really that effective. I mean, it's not, the project doesn't hinge on that in my mind. It's just that in a residential area, I don't know if speed bumps are really the best way to go.
We can look at that, sir.
I'm sorry.
Mike?
Mr. Mayor, council members, there are several ways to achieve traffic calming. One of them is speed bumps, but there are many other ways where we could achieve traffic calming.
I'd just like to, when you guys talk about this, I'd like to have you explore maybe something a little bit less obnoxious as compared to a speed bump. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other comments from council? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Melissa Tapanez with the law firm of Burkow and Riddell, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Miami. Joining me this evening is John Kovacs, Ashley Bosch, Eddie Francis, and my colleague, Mike Riddell. We're available for questions in order to address Councilman Porter's concern regarding speed bumps. We also have other types of traffic calming devices, including textured pavers at 2 locations on that roadway. There's also a center landscape median that will also contribute to traffic calming.
All I said, I know it is a very long, straight road, and I realize and recognize there's going to have to be some sort of a calming effect put in there. It'd be nice if it weren't a speed bump, but again, I know it's probably more important that they don't speed up and down that road in the neighborhood, but if you can come up with something a little more creative than just a yellow speed bump, I think that would be nice.
Okay.
But again, the project doesn't hinge on that in my mind.
There's no yellow speed bumps on the proposed site plan. There are pavers, and they're the elongated sort of speed bumps, but they won't be yellow or obnoxious in color or anything.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I just have one question.
Ms. Bowman?
The stacking issue, I know in the site plan comments it said that there's not enough stacking room on the property for vehicles waiting for the card reader. I'm assuming that you've done something to correct that?
Yes, we had a traffic engineer prepare a queuing analysis, and we've also agreed with staff to further mitigate any type of stacking issues at the time we get our entrance feature approved, which will be before this board.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Well, let me first close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell, absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat approval, granting site plan approval, granting a variance from Section 30-752 of the City Code of Ordinances to allow groupings of townhomes to exceed 200 feet in length, 3 buildings to be 215 feet, and 1 building to be 233 feet. Granting a variance from Section 30-702 of the City Code to allow a minimum front yard setback of 6 feet where 27 feet is required. Granting a variance from Section 30-704 of the City Code to allow a minimum rear yard setback of 15 feet where 27 feet is required. Granting a variance from Section 30-678 of the City Code to allow a lot area of 1,708 square feet where 1,800 square feet is required. All for Towngate North, 225 townhome units on approximately 22.36 acres of land in Sector 11 of the Villages of Homestead DRI Planned Unit Development, located north of the Southeast 24th Street, east of Southeast 23rd Avenue, south of Southeast 16th Street, and west of Southeast 28th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move second reading, Mayor.
Move second reading by Councilman Porter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hodge. On the street light requirement, how are we dealing with it when it's under the jurisdiction of FP&L? Are they working in concert with the city and making sure those, we mention it often, is out of our service area, or have FP&L come on board to help us implement this street lighting ordinance that we have in place?
Mr. Mayor, council members, the decorative street light requirements are site plan approval requirements, so the developer has to comply with these standards. And FP&L, they have several ways of how you could get your street lights. One of them is just to buy power, and they own the lights. The homeowners association or the CDD will own the lights. In the case of Homestead, they will do the construction, put everything, and then we maintain it for a fee. So we think it's not really a problem in FPNL area.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add to that as well, when we went back and revised the ordinance for the light fixtures themselves, the decorative fixtures, we did model it somewhat on the Waterstone fixtures, which are FPNL fixtures, so getting the fixture where we want should not be a problem either. And I'd also like to make one little correction on the ordinance. It should be 24.65 acres. Just wanted to make sure we got that in there ahead of time. I guess that's one of those Scrivener's errors.
That makes a huge difference.
It helps a little bit.
Any other comments from council for open the public hearing? Any initial comments from council? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
No.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell's absent. A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for Pod I, Azores at Oasis, 285 multifamily units on approximately 18.59 acres of land in the Oasis Planned Unit Development located in the center of the Oasis PUD, west of Southwest 147th Avenue, north of Southwest 328th Street, and south of the C-103 Canal as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hodge, second by Councilman Porter. Question from council? An initial question from council.
One question,
Councilwoman
Mayor.
Donner?
Mr. Schreiner, I see that there's a 6-foot chain link fence between the development and the school that's going to be adjacent to it. Is there going to be some kind of landscape buffer so the residents aren't looking at the back of the school?
As Mr. Schneider was talking to Mayor, yes, there is always shrubbery in front of the chain link fence, ma'am. So they will not see it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
May I ask?
By the way, sure, go ahead.
Ms. Waldman?
Regarding the fence, didn't I read in planning and zoning minutes, there were so many planning and zoning minutes I read today, that there was a possibility that that chain link fence could be a wooden fence? Or was that under something else?
I think that was something else.
Was there something else?
Residential.
This is a chain link, Dick Coker representing the applicant, this is a chain link fence with a hedge that's designed to grow right into the chain link fence. So it looks like one.
Okay. I just thought maybe if we could have one privacy fence, we could have another privacy fence. But these are the green aesthetic? Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from council?
Mayor.
Mr. Losner?
Thank you. Interestingly enough, last time we were here, Mr. Coker made a very good observation and reminded us that with respect to PUDs, we have, as a council, the ability to almost micromanagement the design and placement of units. And doing some quick math up here, while I recognize that maybe the overall PUD doesn't exceed 6 units per acre, this pod, as I calculate it, exceeds 15 units per acre. Correct. And, you know, in my view, that's overly dense. It's a quality of life issue, and I've got real, gut level issues with this number of units. Again, we've done a real good job at holding the line and having a different kind of unit in our community as we were accustomed to for so many years. And I'm fearful that, as the people in Portofino have had problems with the more dense pods and the prevalence of rental communities, you've got crime issues and community disturbance issues, and I would think that in approving this, we're just getting ready to have more of the same. And for that reason and the density, I'm not going to support this. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Losner. Any other comments?
One comment, Mayor.
And then Ms. Garner.
Let me yield to Ms.
Garner.
Mr. Coker, as Mr. Osner was saying, some of the residents in Portofino Bay had some issues. One of the things that they did was they put in their documents that they would have a rental board. Do you think that maybe you could put that in your documents?
Well,
They have guidelines to follow?
Well, they have that. This is all NAR project. And the city has seen their declaration of what's a declaration of condominium. They have all those provisions in the declaration of condominium. Very, very strict requirements on renters, and it has to be approved by the board. That is in the declaration of condominium. And may I just address a couple of things? This is a multifamily pod within the Renaissance PUD, and as you know, we talked about PUDs for so many years that it does have a wide variety of types of uses. This happens to be the multifamily pod, exactly in accordance with the PUD approval. And let me make sure that the council, and I'm sure you are clear about the discretion that you have in approving PUDs. You have absolute discretion in approving a PUD zoning and the PUD master plan. And once you do that, you create the zoning for that PUD. And then the normal site plan process takes over, and you have less discretion. As long as the site plan complies with your land development regulations and complies with the zoning regulations, which are the PUD regulations, then it's virtually a ministerial act in approving this. Be glad to answer any other questions.
Mr. Porter?
I don't believe that density has anything to do at this particular point with a problem community. My issue is, I think everybody's issue is up here, that rental is the problem with the communities that we see. The majority of our problems are with the fact that the rental community comes in, they have no investment in the community, they have no particular care for the community.
Oh, these are condominiums.
I understand, but we sat up here for the last 2 years and we built communities of single-family homes that have ultimately, in a roundabout way, become rental single-family homes, and those areas are some of the reasons why we're having to increase police services, because there's so much rental going on. So I do agree that there's problems, and if it's being addressed through some sort of homeowner's document or some sort of, we've got to be able to get a handle on this, because that seems to be the problem. I agree there's some areas that we have problems with. I don't think that the density issue is the problem. I think the fact that there's so much, if you have 50 or 60 or 70% rental in a development, those are the developments that we appear to have the most amount of problems with. That's just my opinion. I don't think that I relate density to problems. So if you've got a way, and I think Ms. Garner mentioned the rental aspect of it, where the oversight board, for lack of a better term.
The condominium association board has ultimate control over over renting any condominium unit. And this is even more strict than a normal homeowners association. This is condominium board under Chapter 718. So, and the Lennar documents, like all the other really good builder documents, condominium documents, do not allow rental for less than a year term. You can't rent more than twice in a year. In case a term comes up in the middle of the year, you can only rent it twice in any year. They have an option of denying the renter and finding you a replacement, but you want to not allow rentals, because that really puts a homeowner who happens to have a change of circumstances in a predicament.
No, I think I may have misled you, and I apologize. But where the problem is where we have a lot of the rental single-family homes in the community today. The oversight boards aren't in place. It doesn't appear that they're in place, and I know Ms. Waldman has something to say. But all I would like to see is some of these oversight boards don't get up and running for 2 or 3 years after the project is finished. That window of opportunity is the problem that we're experiencing some of the other communities now. So as quickly as the associations or the oversight boards get up and running, or the sooner that the developer can create a true oversight, internal oversight, the better off the city of Homestead will be. Because then our responsibility for the services, whether they be police services, which normally that's really what it is. I think that's my concern, and I think that was where Ms. Garner was going.
And I will relay those comments to the builders to make sure that they look at their documents again in that light, to make sure that there are at least the legal controls, and when they have control of the association, that they exercise that control.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Waldman?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Coker, I'm going to take every opportunity I have to talk about this issue, and I'm going to take this opportunity right now because I was concerned. I'm concerned every time I see condominiums before me because of the high density of condominiums. However, I do know that you can do something. I know that there is a condominium association in Lakeshore that prohibits a new buyer from renting that unit for at least 1 year. May even be a little bit longer, I can't remember, but I know that, I think it's Condo 6, I sold one in there recently, and there is, it's within their docs that says that they cannot lease that out for at least a year. And that does deter investors. I know I was over in Waterstone the other day. I mean, investors went in there and they bought 4 and 5 and 6 houses, and we can't even find them, because they're not on the tax rolls yet, and they're rented out. So that is a problem, and I want to see each and every one of the developers look into this, because if you say you want to deter this kind of activity, then you've got to do something about it. And you can't do it once we see all these homeowners in front of us with all these problems, and it takes the city to go to the developers to try to work out a way so that they can do their own homeowners association. So folks, I'm telling you, you're going to hear me over and over and over. If you don't do something about it now, then it's not going to happen later. You have to fix it now. So I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. And I don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see, I realize that it's free society and it's America and you want to take advantage of it, but there should be some limit to the investors. I mean, maybe they can buy one extra or maybe two, but when they go in and they buy 8, 9, and 10, there's a problem. And I want to see some kind of repercussion in return. Make them live in it for a year. Make it sit there empty for a year. I don't care. But don't just let people go in there and take over a community by making it a rental community. So I like this project, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm concerned. And later on down the line, I'm going to be more concerned. And I'd like to see some pro-action on these documents.
Every one of the developers that I represent will get this message tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallman. Any other comments from council? Any other comments? Well, I'll open up the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Would you come up and give us your name and address for the record?
Hello, my name is Angel Garot. I live in Portofino Estates, 2214 Northeast 41st Avenue, and I just want to highlight on what he's talking about. Most of the PUDs, they do have guidelines, but they're, number one, they don't get enforced. Like you said, they take so long for them to get into effect. I happen to work real estate as well, so my wife does a lot of rentals. Most of the rental communities, they don't have a guideline, a procedure in place. She puts people in there. Luckily, she puts good people in there. I think that even though they have that in their books, it's not going to be enforceable. Even on the sales contracts that they say that they don't want, you have to state that you're going to live in the property, that's unenforceable too. So unless...
That's not true. Not if you have your docks done the right way and there's a screening committee. That is not, you can control it. It's being controlled in Lakeshore.
The sale? Well, we're talking about these initial properties. When they initially get sold, there really is no control. I can tell you because in several phases of Keys Gate in Westbrook, supposedly you're supposed to live in the house for a year, and there's sales there going on left and right. People are selling.
Somebody needs to do something about it.
Okay, so that's the difficult part is the enforcement. I mean, we can have all the guidelines on the books and the PUDs and the declarations, but there is no enforcement. We're going to still have the same problem. So unless maybe if the city could step in and I don't know what kind of resolution or something that you have a say-so or can oversee, or that they need some type of...
The city's not in the business to be in the running of a community as far as after, with your homeowners associations. I'm speaking for myself, but I really don't believe that we have the staff, nor do we have the money to pay the attorneys and everybody else to do that. That's why it's so important that it's followed now. Do you know how many calls I get a day? People wanting me to sell them something pre-construction, and I know full well that they're not going to live in it. I don't do that. I haven't sold one, and I'm not going to do it. But it's important. It's just important that you start. You have to start somewhere. You have to.
I mean, all those things that you're asking for, they're in place, so there is no enforceability. So maybe taking a look at how is it going to be enforced, because all those things are in there.
Well, we'll hear back from the developers as they come back to us.
And then another question, I would ask him if there's a CDD in place at that.
I don't know.
There is. And as you're aware of all the problems with the CDD disclosures, I don't know if you've taken a look at the requirements for the disclosures that they have, so we don't keep having that same problem of people taking over that burden without knowing. So, I mean, that's something that you guys might want to take a look at. So, I mean, the problems that we have, if we can just leave them there and not keep adding more to that mix, I think it's going to help the city as in whole. Okay.
Jim Tran from 2375 Southeast 7th Place. I think that both Mr. Porter and Mr. Lawson are correct. I think there's a problem with the rentals, of course, and with the condos and the apartments, but I think this is a density problem. I live in Keys Gate in the North Gate Village, and across the street we have East Lake, and neither of those have condos. And we already have a traffic problem on Kingman. Can you imagine when these condos are built, with all these people coming out onto Kingman, the kind of problems we're going to have with just traffic, especially since there's going to be an elementary or a K3 or a K8 school right across the street from us. So I think we're just looking for problems here when we build this out to 15 units per acre when we were promised 6. Thanks.
May I make one more comment, Mayor?
Sure.
I just wanted to confirm before I said something. That's why I didn't say it originally. But I've reviewed a lot of the contracts and a lot of the declarations of the developers, and it was my memory that there's a no investor policy. And it's been confirmed that after Waterstone, that virtually every one of the developers that are in the big PUDs that you've seen me here for have adopted a no investor policy.
That's good.
Waterstone has a lot of growing pains with this city, with many things, with the CDD, disclosures and things like that. It's unfortunate, but I think we all experience growing pains. No one expected the kind of market for people living in Homestead. Waterstone just blew up beyond anyone's imagination, and after that, things changed. Things changed at the county for CDDs, and the disclosures after Waterstone are much, much different, and they're getting more stringent every month or so at the county. And the developers have all adopted a no investor policy, and it's much harder for rentals. It's impossible for investors unless they want to close and hold it without doing anything for a year. So those policies that you talked about have been adopted, but you're seeing...
I'm very happy to hear that.
But what you're seeing is the effect of Waterstone, where people were learning this.
John Burgess, 655 Southeast 30th Drive. I would just like to reiterate what Mr. Losner said. With this project going up basically in my backyard as a resident of Eastlake, I think that 15.3 units per acre is way too many. I mean, to me, it's an absurd number when we're only supposed to have 6, and we're 2.5 times what the city council has told us we're going to have. And I would just like to say that the density of that project is way too much for what I would like to see come up in my backyard.
Well, let's get this is the multi-unit phase of this development, is it not the case? And what's the...
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's what I wanted to take a look at.
It allows how many per acre?
It allows, in this case, the area allows 285 multifamily units. They're asking for 285. So in this specific pod, you do get the high numbers Mr. Lazar's mentioning of 15.33. But again, on average, when you roll everything together, to the other ones, you'll see one later tonight that's at 4.74. They do tend to average out closer to the 6 that we're talking about originally. This is just one of the more intense pods.
And what was the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board?
5-0 to approve it, sir.
Any other comments?
I have a question. Sorry.
Ms. Roman?
Mr. Hodge, if you want to go first, that's fine. I've taken the floor. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure, because I'm concerned about this too, and I don't think a lot of people realize the whole pod. You know, a lot of people don't understand that concept, and that within the major scheme of things, there is it's called for multi-use. Correct? I'm not multi-use, but townhouses or condos. Correct?
You have a mix of uses, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Has there been traffic studies done on this?
Yes, ma'am. Basically, the traffic studies, and Mr. Coker can re-verify, I believe were done in the beginning, in the earlier phases of this thing. They are brought up at least at each time we look at the individual pods themselves. The other thing, again, going back to the numbers you mentioned, you're correct that while this is a higher number, this is one of the pods which is designed, or at least planned originally, to have a denser unit. They have the ability to put in this area 285, and they're actually asking for the entire 285. So, but therefore, because of the acreage, it seems like a high number. It is on this acreage. When you bring it out over the whole area that's involved with it, the number is probably end up being essentially that 6, or maybe slightly less, since a lot of the other ones you'll see are slightly less number than what they're allowed.
So am I understanding then that under the master plan that it was called for that 285 units could be built there?
Yes, ma'am.
And am I understanding it correctly that if they go in and ask for no variances or ask for any changes, that they can go in there and build those 285 units?
Yes, ma'am.
So they can build them regardless of what we say?
Well, they're still got to go through the whole planning and zoning. But yeah, the number is correct, yes, ma'am.
But that is the number, and that was set forth in what year?
Sometime before my time, but I want to say probably in the early stages of the DRI, but I don't know the specific date, ma'am. But it's been around for quite a time.
75, 1975?
I was going to say 75, but I wouldn't guarantee that.
1976. So since 1976, that 285 units.
This is not in the DRI.
Pardon?
This is in...
It's not in?
It's probably a 2000, 2002, something like that.
2000, 2002? Okay.
But again, the number of units have been essentially assigned to the general area as an overall for a number of years. All they're doing now is getting to the point of actually bringing them forward pod by pod or piece by piece. And this is just one of the more intense pods, but still within the numbers that originally were set up to be allowed.
What year do you think that this construction would start?
That we'd have to ask Mr. Coker.
Site work is going on right now, and that'll take a few months, but then the final plat will come back here, building permits will be applied for, I imagine early next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Porter? Oh, Mr. Hodge, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, I get confused so easily. So I have a few questions I need to ask. Now, we're looking at 15.3 units per acre of this particular pod, correct?
That's a net density for this pod.
Okay. Now, to my understanding, the overall density is to be covered, that is figured over the PUD within itself, which is the larger map of the entire development, and a pod is only basically a section, so you could have a PUD and have 10 pods.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And the math is done over the entire PUD and not per pod.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So based on that math, there may be a single-family pod area that's considered just single-family only that may have 3, 4 units, maybe 5 units per acre, and then you may have the multi-family units that may have, like what we're seeing here is the 15 units per acre, but at the end of the day, for the entire development, you're getting your 6 units per acre.
You're getting less than 6. In fact, this pod will build out about 125 units less than what's approved. I mean, this PUD, the total PUD will build out at about 125 units less than what was approved.
Okay, so really this is just a portion of the entire development.
Yes, and that's what you have averages. You have some above the average and some below. The other two pods that you'll be hearing in a minute are all below the average, single family.
Thank you, Mr. Coker.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Garner?
Can we have that rendering shown to the camera and to the audience? Because I think what a lot of people aren't seeing is that there's about 10 or 11 different pods there. As we said, it is an average, but you have the multifamily next to the school, which kind of creates a buffer between the school, which is an intense use, and your single-family larger homes that would be behind it. So it kind of gives it a flow. And of course, you guys couldn't see the map very well, but it does make sense when you look at it from a development perspective. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Any other comments? Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
No.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell's absent. Mayor Warren?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for Pod A, Atlantis at Oasis, 112 single-family cluster units on approximately 18.48 acres of land in the Oasis planned unit development, located in the northwest corner of the Oasis PUD, west of Southwest 152nd Avenue, north of 320th Street, Maui Drive, and south of C-103 Canal, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Move adoption by Councilman Hodge, second by Councilman Porter. Any initial comments from council? If not, I'll open up the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for Pod D, Capri at Oasis, 116 single-family units on approximately 24.46 acres of land in the Oasis Planned Unit Development, located in the western portion of the PUD, west of Southwest 152nd Avenue, north of 320th Street, Maury Drive, and south of the C-103 Canal as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Garner, second by Councilman Porter.
Mayor, I would just like to point out that this section is only 4.74 units per acre, so as you can see, there are differences between the pods.
Any other comments from council? This is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments?
Just one quick question.
Ms. Garner, Ms. Mormon?
What's the price range going to be on these homes?
These are the larger single-family homes that start in the high 2s and go to the high 3s.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
John Burgess again, 655 Southeast 30th Drive. I'd just like to point out to Councilwoman Garner that we're looking at houses when she says there's 4.6 units. We're not looking at townhouses of 15.3 units. So there's quite a difference between 4.6 and 15.3 units when you're looking at single-family houses versus townhouses or condominiums, or however they're labeling them. So that was my comment.
Right. And that's the purpose of the PUDs, that you have different options for different people. Some people, I live in a condo, I really couldn't afford to buy a house with a yard, so there's different options at different price levels.
I understand it, but I thought that you were just throwing that 4.7 is you're making sure that people understand there's 4.7 units on this plan. Where another one, I just wanted to make sure people remember that there's 15.3 on that last one, which is an absurd number.
I was just trying to point out that there are several different uses within the PUD, that's all.
Any other comments? Any other comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for Keys Cove 2, 523 condominium units and 406 townhouse units on approximately 109.6 acres of land within a planned unit development, located south of South Canal Drive, west of Southwest 152nd Avenue, north of Town Center Boulevard and Center Gate No. 1, east of the shores at Keys Gate, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Move for discussion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second for discussion.
Moved by Councilman Hogg, second by Councilman Porter.
Question, Mayor.
Ms. Garner?
Mr. Chandra, on the petition facts, it states that they're asking for 925 multifamily units, and the DRI allows 1,562, but a few pages later on the code compliance, it says that Sector 6 permits up to 644 multifamily units, and Sector 10 permits up to 918, but they were asking for 929. Does this comply with code, or does this not comply with code?
This does comply, ma'am. The way I can explain to you is this. This development, as part of the DR, is in Sector 6 and Sector 10. In Sector 6, they are using 26 units. That's all that's really left in Sector 6. In Sector 10, there's actually the ability to get 918 and using 903. So for practical purposes, when I put the little part of 6 and the rest of 10 together, they're asking for 929 where 944 is allowed. It's a 15 less than what's allowed, but it is within the code. we had to ask for a second letter of clarification from the owner to make sure where these things actually split from where we had the first meeting. We wanted to make sure that they were covered between the two sections and they added up to an allowable number.
And this is the section that Mrs. Wellman was talking about that has had the density allowed since the 70s.
Yes, ma'am. This is from the DRI.
It has vested property rights that have been allowed.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Porter?
One of the things, Susan, maybe you can weigh in here. When we first started talking about PUDs and we started talking about the DRI, and our city attorney was at the table that time was Richard Weiss. He alluded to the fact that a DRI or a PUD is kind of like a slice of bread and some peanut butter. You give them overall density. Where they spread the peanut butter on the piece of bread is a discretionary issue. That made a lot of sense because of simple terms. One of the things that we looked at with the whole DRI, and actually we've gone into great reductions in the DRI across the board in a lot of areas. In some other areas it's been to the maximum limit, correct?
I'm not sure. I think staff could characterize. I don't remember each of the ones that has come through.
Well, I don't either. I mean, this goes on and on and on. I know the issues that we've got that are following all these approvals, everyone's concerned about the infrastructure, which we're working desperately on. And everyone's concerned about the schools, which we're working desperately on, which obviously, to a large degree, the infrastructure, some of which relies on the county to provide. But I think the city's going to be able to weigh in to fast track or faster track to alleviate some of that pressure on some of the major roadways. That has yet to be, probably in the next couple of weeks we'll have some issue there. And the schools, we've gotten some huge commitments from Miami-Dade County, from the school board, in addition to the EFBD. So what we've got to do is we've got to work towards educating everyone that there are things that are coming up in addition to just houses, that there are other things that are following. And we've got, Mr. Manager, I guess I'll say to you and all the staff, that as we approve rooftops, we need to also make everyone aware that there are things being done on the other sides of the table, in addition to something I think that we'll, in the very near future, Mayor, be able to bring forward from the counties, some things that we're going to have with the county through the infrastructure to show some major improvements to some infrastructure needs that specifically roads, that I think will help to not totally alleviate the concerns of infrastructure problems or traffic situations, but absolutely help to address it. And at some point in time, it'd be nice if we could get someone to come down and give us an overview, similar to what Ms. Greer did for the Chamber and the Kiwanis and the Rotary Club, to show the commitment that the school board has to this growth issue. Because one of the things that I think we fail to remember is that these PUDs do have the ability to shift that responsibility around, and we're seeing that in this project as well, because they are allowed the density based on the fact that the overall DRI has density attached to it, right?
Yes, the overall DRI, just like the other PUDs, has a certain amount of density, but then the master plan breaks it down so that different areas within the DRI are allocated a certain number of units, and that's what Mr. Chandra was referring to, that in this little segment of the DRI, he gave you the math on what units were available and what they're proposing to do.
And to follow that up, I just think that we need to, as fast as Mr. Shahada, as fast as we can, get something back on the traffic scenarios that we've been talking about internally, and maybe we could get, maybe the Vice Mayor could speak to Ms. Greer or someone to come down and give us a little bit of a face-to-face discussion on what Miami-Dade County School Board is proposing.
We'll arrange for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other comments from council? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a request by Stonegate Joint Venture for a special exception to allow an entrance feature, gate and guardhouse at the Malibu Bay Planned Unit Development, located southeast of the Homestead extension of the Florida Turnpike, north of Southwest 312th Street, Campbell Drive, east of Southwest 152nd Avenue, and west of theoretical Southwest 142nd Avenue, is legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval, Mayor.
Moved by Councilman Porter, second by Councilman Hodge.
Question.
Question, Mr. Porter?
Any entrance feature has to go through the special exception process, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this is just standard procedure. Entrances have to have this type of hearing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
A resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval for Pod M, Marbella Bay, 207 townhouse units on approximately 21.45 acres of land in the Waterstone Planned Unit Development Phase 2, located south of Southwest 304th Street, northeast 15th Street, Kings Highway, north of 312th Street, Campbell Drive, west of Southwest 137th Avenue, Tallahassee Avenue, and east of the Florida Turnpike, is legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Porter. Comments from council? Any initial comments from council?
I have one question.
Mr. Losner, then Ms. Waldman.
I think Ms. Waldman was first, Mayor.
Ms. Waldman, Mr. Losner.
I just wanted to make sure that what we talked about before with the, sorry, I don't know who I'm talking to, Mr. Coker. I think I want to talk to Mr. Coker.
This plat is not part of the Waterstone PUD.
Okay.
And I personally don't know the developer of this plat, although Bob does, I believe.
Okay. I just want to make sure that because it is townhouse units.
No. I'm sorry. We were confused, Bob and I.
Okay.
This is Marbella Bay.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, got you now. All right, yes. This is part
Marbella
of
Bay, and this is what concerns me, is because I know that Marbella Bay, whatever that phase is that's in there now, that's what we're having all the problems with, with the rental. So I want to make sure that what you talked about before is in place on this new phase.
I can't represent that on this phase. All I can do.
Yes, they do.
Well, Steve can.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, because I don't want this Marbella phase having the same
that's a good point.
problem that Marbella is having now, because I know
didn't know the answer,
that.
but Steve knows.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Any other comments?
Mayor.
Mr. Losner?
Again, I'd make the comment I made before that while overall the PUD may be at 6 or less, my limited math capabilities tell me that this pod is a whopping 34 and a half units per acre. And while I agree with a lot of Mr. Porter's comments earlier, I really have to disagree that density does have everything in the world to do with quality of life and an indicator of whether or not it's going to probably be predominantly a rental community. And under my business, I'm going to suggest later that, to get around this fiction of 6 units per acre that seems to have been created, that we need to put a cap on density on pods and really be serious about a quality of life and really take a hard look at what kind of community we're really building. So, Mr. Under my business, I'll talk about let's look into putting a cap on a per pod density.
Mr. Losner? I don't think your math is right, sir. If we're looking at it right, we've got...
I can't hear you.
207 townhouses and 21.45.
Okay.
You're going to get closer to 10.
Close to how much?
I've been telling y'all for 3.5 years about my math.
And once you were right.
Okay, let's back up. It's still way too many.
Well, it's not 33. That's what scared me when you went to that number. Okay.
I see what I did
What's
here.
the correct number?
5.65.
9.65?
Well, I know what I did. In order to get to 6, you'd have to have 34 and a half acres to have 6 units per acre. You're right. Okay. So yeah, always good to have somebody checking my math.
Hopefully not me.
Usually it was too many.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
No.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
That concludes the quasi-judicial agenda, Mr. Mayor. We covered 6B1 of the legislative matters previously. The next item is 6B2, which is an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2004-2005 city budget as adopted pursuant to ordinance number 2004-09-37 to provide for the appropriation of a portion of the fund balance to be allocated to the police department within the general fund, to fund an enhancement in the police department services, providing for appropriations for expenditures, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for first reading?
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Hart, second by Mr. Porter. Any questions? Mr. Mayor?
Just a comment also, in keeping with our ordinance in which we have a 10% reserve. Thank you. A reserve, we'll also be increasing our reserve by 10% of that amount as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This is the first reading of this ordinance. I'll open up for public hearing. Any comments from the audience? This is an amendment to our existing budget to incorporate the additional allocation of funds of the police department for the hiring of those 9 officers and supporting personnel. Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Next is first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending Ordinance 98-05-18, which created the elected officials retirement system as amended by Ordinance 2000-02-06 by amending Section 2 definitions to define the term final average compensation, by creating a new Section 3.2 disability benefit, by creating a new Section 3.8 death benefit, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for first reading? Moved by Councilman Porter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hodge. Question?
We do have a question, Mayor.
Mr. Losner?
I guess it would be directed to one of the attorneys. This only applies, as I read it, to those who are already vested by virtue of years of service under the old ordinance as amended, or those who are subsequently elected. So by example, the only 2 sitting up here right now who qualify for this are Mr. Porter and Mr. Warren. Is that correct?
Right.
That's how I read the
applicability. It only covers those who are under the original old elected official retired and vested under that and serve presently on the council. In other words, they have to meet both of those criteria.
So for the rest of us, we would have to be re-elected.
Well, you're under the rest of the council is under the updated elected official ordinance.
No.
It's the next ordinance.
Ms. Waldman and I fell under the old one, but we're not vested.
I see.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Losner.
No, the old one but not vested, and Mr. Hodge and Ms. Bell and Ms. Garner fall under the new one.
Let me have Mike. Go ahead.
Mr. Shahada?
Actually, it will apply to you and Ms. Waldman too, because you will be vested after 4 years, and under the original plan, 4 years was the vesting period.
But we're not yet vested because we don't have 4 years.
4 years.
Right, but we'll clarify that Section 2 applicability, because the intent was that it applies to persons presently on the council who are under the original elected official retirement system that was created back in 1998. That old plan took a lot of heat, and Ms. Waldman chaired that committee that made those changes, and, whichever way the chips fall, we just need to be consistent.
Right. And let me add, the elected officials plan is the only plan in the city that doesn't have the death and disability benefit, and it's the same as the other plans. It's a 10-year tenure in there to be eligible for that. So there's a couple other pieces of information.
Any other comments from council? I'll open up for public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner? Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Next is first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the elected officials' retirement system established pursuant to ordinance number 2002-02-06 and codified at Article 4 of Chapter 22.5, Retirement Plans of the City Code, renaming the plan the New Elected Officials and Senior Management Retirement System, amending Section 22.5-202 of the City Code, Definitions, amending Section 22.5-203 of the City Code, Benefits, to provide death and disability benefits, creating a new Section 22.5-206 Retirement Fund of the City Code, creating a new Section 22.5-207 Administrative Committee of the City Code, creating a new Section 22.5-208 Powers of the Administrative Committee of the City Code, creating a new Section 22.5-209 Retirement System, not a contract of employment of the City Code, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for first reading?
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
Moved by Councilman Hard, second by Councilman Porter. Now, this is an issue that I've talked with the manager and his staff for some time now, reference shifting senior management under this plan, primarily because I had some serious concerns about ongoing negotiation under the general employees plan, which they failed. So when there were improvement to the plan, I saw it as a potential conflict, and that we needed to shift them from under that umbrella. So that's why this is before us. I think it relieves them from a potential conflict by negotiating benefits for them in addition to all the other general employees under the general employees pension plan. So this was not something that staff initiated. I did have some serious concern about it and asked that they take a look at it with the attorneys, and this is what they have before us this evening, and I certainly would ask you to consider it.
Mr. Mayor,
just
a couple of comments. Just one comment there, that the definition of the senior staff is the manager and the two assistant managers that are involved in the negotiations for the contract. So I just wanted to clarify who that senior staff or executive staff is.
Comments from council? If not, this is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Mr. Porter?
The executive team is any assistant to the city manager. So today you have two, but
yeah, assistant city manager. We included in that definition deputy. We don't have one, but it gave a future in our growth if we decided to make someone a deputy city manager. That title is under there. We don't have anybody in that now. That impacts myself, Marlene, and Mike right now, who do the presentation to you of the negotiations that we go through.
But this has the flexibility to grow as the city grows.
That's correct.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman?
Yes.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Bell is absent.
First reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the General Employees Retirement Plan by amending Chapter 22 at Section 22.5-101, Definitions of the City Code, to change the definition of executive team member, by amending Chapter 22 at Section 22.5-102 of the City Code, Plan Membership, to permit members of the executive team to discontinue membership in the General Employees Retirement Plan, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for first reading?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Hart, second by Councilwoman Garner. And I think Mr. Porter just explained what the executive team comprised of. Any comments from the council, Mr. Manager?
Just again, as a note of clarity, we have 3 ordinances that were needed to take this, to make this move. This last one is the general deals with the General Employees Plan, of which now the executive team is a member of, amending the ordinance that covers that allows the executive team to move out of that particular plan and into the new plan.
This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Waldman? Yes. Mrs. Bell is absent. Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Moving on, we're in the resolutions section of the agenda. A resolution of the City of Homestead opposing the establishment by Miami-Dade County of a policy regarding incorporation and annexation of commercial, business, or industrial, CBI areas, which, if adopted, would be inequitable to existing and future municipalities, impossible to implement, and not in the best interest of the community at large.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Moved by Mr. Porter, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hodge.
I just would like to say, Mayor, that, the last Dade League meeting, which was last Thursday, this was one of their major initiatives to try to get this, the county not to impose this on the cities, because it's not fair that the cities should be able to annex but not have any revenue sources allowed to municipalities to service those areas. And the county, just for the record, it's very, very high on the list of the entire Dade League, and it's my understanding they're trying to get bus loads to go to the commission. I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Okay. It's actually the Land Use Committee meeting, Infrastructure and Land Use Committee meeting tomorrow, March 8th.
I knew they had they spent a lot of time on it, and they were soliciting cities, any cities that could, to get someone to write up and show a force in opposition. It's not a good thing, not for municipalities. It's a good thing for the county, but that's why they write the rules.
Any further comments? What commission is sponsoring this? Is this a staff recommendation to the county commission?
I didn't have information on who was sponsoring. It was mostly the information we got from the league on this was, some of the pitfalls of this for the cities. And it's actually unilateral action, and staff, I'm hearing that the staff sponsored this particular, which would make sense. But
money, right?
Yeah, money. I understand that concept. But I think this 100% mitigation, again, it chills the cities being able to afford to take over an area, a CBI area, in which if there is an excess of revenue over expenses to the county, that the city would have to pay some type of mitigation fund to that, yet we would be taking over responsibility for that property. It also is kind of a unilateral determination by the county of how much money that is without any input from a city where it has previously been negotiated. Now it would just be a unilateral decision by the county, and there's no provision in there for when that would sunset. That goes on forever and ever, when at some point you've really kind of paid your dues and shouldn't have to pay any mitigation to the county on that, at least from our position. So that's just a few of the issues from the city's point.
I'd like to ask the manager, did either one of our commissioners have a part in bringing this forward, or is this a staff issue?
This was...
Who sponsored it?
Yeah, I'm not sure who sponsored that. I was getting a nod from someone who seems to know, maybe their step up that knows.
Hey, obviously this is to put a lid on annexation or incorporation.
We just got this from the Dade, and we moved on it pretty quickly.
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, 2 seconds. If you remember back in 96, 97, I believe Commissioner Ferguson
and Commissioner Foray toyed with the idea of CBIs, which took out, basically as Doral was looking, taking out the large commercial areas and taking all of that money and revenue and putting that towards the towards the overall county budget. So it was toyed with for a long time. The league, Mr. Porter, had defeated that some time ago because there were two or three different scenarios. As we went through different iterations of annexation and how to incorporate and deal with the incorporation, besides the knee-jerk reaction of the community councils, which was put in place to try and stem off incorporations, this is where they started coming back. When I was there a few years ago, we began looking at different ways to fund the overall county budget and totally get into an incorporation area. But at this point, it's staff-driven, is my understanding, completely staff-driven.
Thank you, Mr. Shriver. Mr. Shahara?
Mr. Mayor, council members, and this is in place right now as we speak. It's my understanding everything that was incorporated after Pinecrest had to be a mitigation.
Not 100% though, was it? Was it 100%?
100% of excess above all the expenses as determined by the county, as the way it exists now.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I apologize. It's negotiable. In fact, Miami Lakes had a certain fee. Doral had a certain percentage that we actually negotiated on the dais that day. There were a couple others, Palmetto Bay. So it's not 100% absolute certain that number would be at any given percentage. And also the CBI component, that is not a given either. It's basically there are donor cities and then there are recipient cities, and that is negotiated. That percentage of mitigation is negotiated. This CBI is totally a different thing that would blanket the heavy commercial areas and industrial areas. That is not a good thing for anybody in this community.
And it's 100%.
And that would be 100%.
See, that's the
difference.
Because it takes the industrial, the commercial, and it takes 100% of the mitigation responsibility for the cities to take it over, and no revenues generated back to the municipalities, if they take it over.
Thank you all very much. All in favor, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Losner?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldman? Yes. Mayor Warren?
Yes. Thank you, Susan. Business from the city manager?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just a couple of things. One is a reminder, tomorrow, March 8th, the voting for the slot machines will be occurring. Where you vote, it's the same place in the city that you vote in general elections. All our voting polling places will be open. Encourage everyone to get out and vote. They'll be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Comment? Oh, okay. Oh. I'm just getting word that, we were up, the Vice Mayor was up at the county with a team on the annexation of the 60 acres at the Planning and Advisory Board. They're saying it passed.
That's unexpected.
Yeah, it is unexpected.
By the commission or by this committee?
By the Planning Advisory Board. That's the last board before the commission. And we've had unanimous approvals from the boards. Well, the boards themselves, the votes weren't unanimous, but the end result were approvals by all the boards on the 60 acres out west. Okay.
Fantastic.
Way west of there.
Yeah, that was surprising. That was good news. Second item, Art South.
That's in the county.
Second Saturday will be this coming Saturday, March 12th. The special guest, renowned artist Romero Brito. Did I say his name right? Brito. Of course, we know he's done a lot of work, and in Miami, he's well known, and especially on Miami Beach, and where he works out of. The second Saturday will run from 12 p.m. noon to 4 p.m. So we invite you out there. And lastly, reminder, you can register now for the City of Homestead's Third Citizens Academy. You can go online and pull information out online to register. You can also call Lillian Delgado of our office, 305-224-4415. The class will begin Wednesday, April 6th. The classes run once a week for 8 weeks between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. We've had a lot of good feedback from citizens that have attended the class. This is basically Government 101 for Homestead. We partner with FIU University. They give part of the class, which is kind of taken from the academic environment. Then we come in with what we do at the city with various department heads. We end the class with a tour of city facilities. The person who finishes that class will have an understanding of how their city operates, contact numbers, how to handle rumor control. If they hear something, rather than pass it on as a rumor, get the right facts, where to go to. They'll place faces with names. It's a real good opportunity. If you're interested, please contact us. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Real brief. I'm just going to do a little commercial real quick for Defy It again. This is the last meeting that we have before their golf tournament at the Deer Bay Yacht and Country Club in Coral Gables, Florida, and this will be held on Monday, March the 21st. It's still not too late to register and participate and donate to this event. It's a well-organized event, and again, it's for the benefit of our kids in our community. I know they're having the golf tournament in Coral Gables. However, Defy It was started here in Homestead High School. They still have their club there, which I mentioned before that they did over 14,000 community hours last year. Also, they're in South Dade, and with the help of some sponsors and developers that's in the community, we just started a new club in the Keysgate Charter School. So we're trying to get as many kids as possible that we can help out and get them involved in Defy It. And if you don't know what Defy It stands for, it's drug-free youth in our town. So, these kids, subject themselves, they become part of this club, and they open themselves up to drug testing anytime throughout the school year. And it's worked on a peer pressure system in a positive way, where they help and talk to each other about staying drug-free and being drug-free. I have a pamphlet here, but I also have them in the city manager's window, so you can just pick up one and fill out the registration and send it in. Also, for those that are not here, you can go to defyit.com or .org, as dfyit.org, and look up any information there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Councilman Losner?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, tonight's a perfect example of why it would be nice to be able to clone some of our staff. I know Charles did an excellent job tonight at the Planning Advisory Board, but I really wish he'd been here to answer some of our questions on some of those earlier POD and PUD questions. Several weeks ago, I had indicated when some of the new residents were here and addressing some of the crime issues in was it Portofino Bay and Floridian Bay, asked Charles to address the issue in the monthly developer meeting to consider allowing the homeowners to take over the rental clearances earlier than the time the association was handed over. I mean, clearly the standardized documents are set forth such that a project is nearly built out before full control of an association is handed over to the residents, and I don't know if anybody has any feedback on where we are with that with the developers to allow residents to go ahead and set up their clearing boards for rentals.
And Mike, you can correct me if I'm off on this information, but we have talked to the builders on that. The ABOs, I think, are ready, and they've met with members of their developments and are ready to hand over that responsibility here very shortly. They also worked very hard on a rental policy, Ms. Wallman, that you were interested in, and that set out guidelines that could be legally defensible in terms of challenges. They seem to think that they've got that done correctly. So there is some movement in that way, especially with the ABOs. I'm not sure yet about Mike, and I don't know if you know where Lennar is on this. at this point. I don't know if they got back with you on that.
Well,
Mr. Mayor, council members, actually really all the meetings we had to do with the ABOs, so we really had discussions only with the ABOs. And regarding the homeowners association with Ms. Garner the other day, we met with them and Mr. Ed Abo, and they are anxious to turn over the homeowners association.
You know, and it occurred to me that certainly it's not within the city's purview, or not in our scope of authority or interest to talk about what rental guidelines may be set up. But certainly, I think it's safe to say that all of the PUDs have homeowners associations that may or may not have, or most likely all have provision for approval of rentals or prohibiting rentals within a certain period of time. And it occurred to me that a way that we could police that would be to require a certification from an association that a person has been cleared for rental when they present themselves to have their utilities connected, if that person applying for a utilities account, and understanding that much of this lies within FPL, that perhaps that we do have water within the entire annexation area. I believe we have water throughout what we now are calling Keysgate, and power in most of the areas, the rest of the areas south of Campbell. That, and I guess I'm going to look to the attorneys here. Is this a policy that staff can enact on their own, or do we need to move forward and adopt an ordinance such that documentation needs to be provided that if a person who is not the record owner is applying for an account, that we would require documentation that they have been approved for rental? I mean, certainly that's some police authority that we do have to make sure that associations are being enforced.
That's something we can look at to do pursuant to administrative authority.
Yeah, look, we've all been here and we know what a pox on this community some of the rental units have been for 12 years here, and for those coming into our community and laying down several $100,000, and to have those issues next door or across the street. I know as a government, we walk a fine line, but anything we can do to help that situation, I'd like us to do, and if it's enforcement through utilities, so be it.
Mike. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Lozner, council members, actually we now when somebody goes and apply for a utility account, they have to present us with an executed lease agreement. So if they have the screening done prior to the lease agreement, one thing we could do is to verify the lease is a valid lease, not just somebody making a copy and putting their name there.
Well, that's true, but that just because they have a lease with the real owner doesn't mean they've been approved, that the association's even acting. I guess what we're doing is we're kind of requiring these associations to enforce the renter clearance provisions.
Definitely. And the other thing, we asked the city attorney who attended the development coordination meeting with us the other day to look into the language that the ABOs came up with for controls, and see if we can require it in the homeowners association documents in the future.
Yeah, well, while I'm sympathetic to that, I think we need to look to our attorneys to see if we want to step off onto that thin ice and begin inserting city provisions into homeowner association documents. The other issue I had, well, we talked about annexation. Ms. Garner, when Charles comes back, if you could possibly consider putting some cap on the maximum density within a pod, so that we aren't faced with some of these issues we have. And certainly as we begin to look at reducing the PUD size down from 50 to 30 or 20 acres, that those real and actual densities certainly become more relevant when with the lesser land area. Kurt, is it still safe to say we are awaiting a response or a return document on the new city hall site?
Yes, okay. We are checking that daily, waiting. We have it in, and the seller has to sign and get back to us, and we've been making that those calls, and we haven't gotten it back yet.
Thank you, Kurt. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Losner, if we're successful with the county commission with the 60 acres, what's our second phase of annexation? Are we
I'm
on track
aware.
with?
Yes, we are. I can't recall offhand what else is in the pipeline at this point, but as this is progressing and progressing well, certainly we're getting phone calls from others who held back to see how it went, who are saying, count me in, within that area and along those same parameters.
One of the issues that came up from our first, was our first annexation item, which is vacant land, 60 acres of vacant land in which the owner came to us and requested to be annexed into the city. And that's really fits in with our strategy. Our first phase is we know that there are people out there living in homes that do not want to come into the city, do not want to be incorporated either. So we have not taken at this point any effort to go out where one household living next door to the other, one wants to come in the city, one doesn't, and you create a real difficult situation for them. Now, to answer the question, we held back on other submittals because the Redlands Edge and Redland...
Of vacant property.
Of any other than what our first one, vacant
but the others were all vacant.
Other was vacant. Other was vacant. That's our first, that's all.
Owner requested.
Owner requested vacant property. Okay. Now, we said that we would hold off further applications for the conflict resolution exercise that Commissioner Moss and the rest of the commission wanted us to go through before annexing. We kept the one we had in the pipeline. We did not add extra based on that, but we are, since Redland has now, the Redland group has now turned around and sued the county, that might means resolution is, conflict resolution might be out the window. So we don't know where that is right now, but we will look to move forward again.
Okay.
Further.
Good, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lawson?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. Just when we were talking earlier, Mr. Shahada, I know that as these rooftops are approved, there is an approximate idea of the impact fee that is generated for those units. One of the things that I'd like for us to talk about in a future meeting at maybe a committee of the whole is take a look at, I know I'm confident you're tracking the impact fees that are being created. One of the problems that I think that we're having is getting that money on the road fast enough. And I'd like for us to, as a council, be able to know the types of dollars that are being generated and the things that can be used, those dollars can be used for, because I know there's a portion for parks, there's a portion for police, and then so forth. I don't know all of them. But I'd like for us to be able to know as a council and ultimately as a community, the dollars that are being generated and how they can be spent so that we can start thinking about what we want to do with those dollars instead of waiting until our problem is already here. And I think we've spoken about it earlier about investing some money earlier to get the projects going faster. But I'd like for us to talk about that from a point of view that these units that get approved tonight have a dollar value attached to them that we can then apply to a project to improve the systems, whether it be the park system, whether it be the police system, or whether it be the infrastructure, the roads and sewer and so forth. So I'd like for us to get a handle on that. I know you probably already are, but can you put some sort of proposal back at a future meeting for us?
Mr. Porter, council members, I would be happy to.
Okay, because I think it would make a difference for us to see that obviously the impact is being created through the residential components, but there's a dollar being created that we need to invest, and what we need to do is find the fastest mechanism possible to get that money on the street where it's actually going to do the work for us. So I'd like for us to talk about that at a future meeting. It may be a little preliminary. I know all the council members got to meet with Alfonso Lopez, but I know we all got a letter basically saying that the city was in the House at least given $9.5 million for infrastructure, and that's a huge number. And it was project specific. Obviously, it's got to survive the Senate side. This is federal though. But it was my understanding from conversations that generally speaking, although the numbers may vary slightly, but generally speaking, there will be a large allocation of dollars for the city. And Mayor, you eloquently thanked Alfonso and his team last week when he was here for the great work that they do. But these are some of the things that I think we need to, again, the challenge now is to take that money and get whatever monies are allocated to the city, get that into a project going. And I believe that the staff will have hopefully some very good information that we can take a look at these projects in the future with some relationships with the county that'll give us the ability to get this money out of a bank account and onto a project that'll be beneficial to this community. So those are great things. And I know Mike and Julio and the manager, you guys have done a great job, but we need to do better about getting that money on the street.
Definitely.
So Mayor, we will bring something back in the future that hopefully the county will support us agreeing to do some projects for them. We don't have that yet, but we've received no real negative comments that they want. And I think we've talked about it before where Mr. Shahada was in charge of Public Works at that time when the county gave us the ability to take their money, do a project that was their road, but the city was able to come in on time and under budget, which is quite remarkable. That's what we want to do more of, and that's where we're going with this whole infrastructure issue. We want to know how much money we've got. We want to pick out our projects, let the city get in control of the project so that we don't get hung up in the county's big bureaucratic will that of no problem of their own. It's just a large bureaucracy. So we think we really feel comfortable that we can get some of these projects going a lot faster if we can get control of them, a little bit more control of them. I mean, we've met with no real major stonewalling, for lack of a better term, at any county position that we've spoken to. So, Mike, if you have something else to add, I'm trying not to jump the gun, but I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but I want to put pressure on the county.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Porter. Actually, we've been talking to the county, going back a few weeks, but last week we had a meeting with the guy in charge of the capital projects. We've been talking to the assistant county manager, Joe Ruiz. Actually, I ran into him on Saturday, and he gave me an update on what's going on. We have a meeting with him on Friday, me and Holly, to go and see him and talk about these issues. And also we drafted a letter with a draft interlocal agreement. We actually took the interlocal agreement we had for 344 to just shorten the time for them, and Julio just changed it to apply to 328, and we are sending it to them and requesting a meeting immediately. So we're moving. And in addition to the other funds you said, where even if they have issues with the funding, we know for sure they have funding for phase 1, which is from Southwest 152nd Avenue to 162nd Avenue. The plans are completed, the money is there, they're ready to just go for a bid. So we'd like them to just go do that. Of course, we'd love to manage it. We're going to propose to manage it. And of course, take over the other 2 phases, design, construction, and management.
But I guess it's my opinion, Mayor, if the city can get control of those other 2 phases, I believe the county's process took this improvement to 328, which is North Canal, which is the only, it's basically the only 2-lane left east-west through the major growth area of the east. And they have it scheduled to build out over about a 10-year time frame. And I just don't think that's acceptable for this community, and knowing the track record that the Public Works group has done in the past with given the responsibility, they've been able to turn these projects around, and that's the goal, is to get control of these projects so that we can administer them in-house and get the money on the street and coordinate the projects so that everything goes smoothly in our community, as opposed to someone from another community not really knowing the ins and outs of this community. So that's the strategy, and I think we'll get some very good news in the very near future, and I wait for that. The last thing I'd like to say is I wanted to thank the manager for providing the weather this weekend for the Toyota 300. He told me he was responsible. And I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Manager, because I had calls from people that said they saw it on television and it was like a postcard. So, but congratulations to the Speedway, and it looked like it was a successful event. Being there, and the people that called and spoke about it from the television said it looked magnificent. So, a lot of nice public relations for the city. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. And I just want to highlight your comment from the federal government level about the $9.5 million that have gone through the House side, and just ask the community to pray that the Senate embrace it to help us out with our transportation need in the city of Homestead. But it looks very promising, and our lobbyists and Congressman Mario are just unbelievable in what they're doing for us in Washington, D.C. So if you see his staff or see Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, just thank him on behalf of the people of Homestead, because he's doing an outstanding job in representing us in Washington. And thank you, Mr. Porter. It looks very promising.
Let me just add that your going to Washington certainly doesn't hurt either. So thank you for making that trip, because that's a ton of money. We can certainly use it. But thank you for going.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Ms. Roman?
Yes, I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Porter said about the race weekend. I was watching the Today Show the other day, and our city was mentioned, and our beautiful weather, and how lucky we were to have the weather here in South Florida. So I thought that was interesting. I did a double take. I was just doing something else, and all of a sudden Homestead, Florida was mentioned, and what a wonderful city we have. So I was very proud of that. I missed the last meeting because I was attending the Greater Miami Visitors and Convention Bureau Board of Directors meeting, which I serve on, and I can tell you that the city of Homestead is being talked about a lot in the city of Miami, because they know that we will have what amounts to a Super Bowl every single year here in Homestead, with the new dates of the NASCAR, which we experienced last year. So we're going to address that in our tourism board and try to monopolize and capitalize on some of those things. But there's going to be a whole week's worth of events going on the week prior to the race this coming year, and it sounds like it's going to be very exciting. I wanted to announce that Sharon Lockshear, our city clerk, has resigned her position to pursue other endeavors. I announced this at the COW meeting last week. We're going to miss her greatly. Sharon was with the city for 17 years and served as our clerk for 7 years. But she is branching out into other avenues, and we wish her only the very best. I want to welcome Chrissy to the clerk's office, and thanks to both Chrissy and Patty for filling in and doing everything they can, and thanks to Sherry from CRA. She's been a godsend. And we have a nationwide search right now out. Hopefully, we're going to hear something very soon. Right, Marcy? Okay. Easter. I wanted to remind everyone about the Spring Fun Festival, which is going to be March 19th at the Harrisfield Barn Pavilion. This event is for children under 10 years of age. It's $5 per child, and that includes hot dogs, chips, drink, face painting, admission to a wildlife animal show, which will start promptly at 2. What time do the doors open, Marlene? 10 or 12? 12? Okay, pardon me? Okay, and there's going to be pictures with the Easter Bunny, free popcorn, cotton candy, and a goodie bag, but it's only open to the first 200 children and 2 adults per family. So keep that in mind. You can register by March 16th with the Parks and Recreation. So if you want to come, please pre-register, because 200 kids, the last event we had, I mean, it was amazing how many children came out. And that's 2 adults per family. So just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to say that I had the opportunity last Saturday, not this Saturday, but Saturday before, to be a part of a television show that was filmed at the South Dade Labor Camp. And it was about the children of the South Dade Labor Camp, and how Eddie Garza had formed the baseball camp that, remember, I brought into council since he was a little boy. He's been interested in that, and since he was 15 or 16 years old, he developed a baseball field for these children, and he now has a league and a camp for them. So it was a Spanish English producer from New York City, and he was down, and he took the time to talk to me about the city and what we're doing, and he was just amazed. I guess he was down in 1993 after Hurricane Andrew, and he couldn't believe our city. He was actually staying here, and so I had an opportunity to talk about some of the things that we're doing, and that's going to be filmed internationally in April, so I'll get a copy of that, and I think that'll be something good to keep in the archives of our city. I was going to say our city basement, but I won't say that anymore. Just wanted to let you know that we are working diligently on our park-to-park concept. We gave a beautiful presentation at our COW meeting, and I'd really like to do a presentation for the television audience as well, so they can see how hard we've worked and how far we've come, and we are in the process of gathering the money to do the feasibility study, and once we do the feasibility study, there are just thousands and millions of dollars worth of grants that are available, and I'm so proud to say that the Federal Parks Department has put this in the top 3 of priority here in the state of Florida. So I'm going to be lobbying very hard for some federal dollars for this project, and I know that it's going to happen. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it's a concept that I've dreamed about since I took office, and it would be a trail that would go from one national park to the other national park, as we are so fortunate. I think we're the only city in the United States to have 2 main entrances to 2 national parks right in our backyard. So we would be enticing marathons, triathlons, all kinds of events. Some of the path will be as wide as 100 feet wide. So it's going to be beautiful. We'll have butterfly gardens. It'll be a very passive and very enjoyable trail for those that would like to experience it when it's finished. I want to also say that March 12th, the Saturday night, is our Little Angels Monte Carlo Casino night. As all of you know, my husband and I started this foundation approximately 5 years ago because of our little grandson Wyatt, who's autistic, and we give every single penny of money that we raise back to children who are mentally and physically challenged in the community. And I'm very proud to say that I was adding it up a little bit this morning. We've given away approximately $150,000 in the last 4.5 years, and that's money that just went right back. And just recently we gave a lady that works at the News Leader, I found out that 2 of her children had been diagnosed with cancer within weeks of each other, and she was driving a car with no headlights. I mean, it was just, she was really, every penny she made was going to those children, and so we bought her a car. You know, that's what the Angels, that's what we do, and we're going to continue to do it. So please come out Saturday night, Keys Gate Country Club, 7 o'clock, and have a good time with us. And by the way, Council, I forgot your tickets. Angels are giving you each 2 tickets, so hope that you'll join us with that. Let me just see what else I have on my agenda. I did want to say that the Humpty Dumpty Park is moving along. Marlene, can you give us a little update on what's going on there?
Councilman Walden, members of council, we've met with the group that is going to be doing the remediation at Humpty Dumpty. They've had discussions with the county folks. The paperwork should be on their desk this week, and we hope by the end of this year that we will be seeing a park being built at Humpty Dumpty. We anticipate probably by the end of the year the remediation should be completed.
I hope so. This is going to be a beautiful park, and it's going to be right on Palm Drive. Thank you. I blanked there.
31 acres, right, Marlene?
32.
32 acres, 31.7. And it's going to be 4 lighted tennis courts, 4 lighted soccer fields, dog park. I mean, it's going to be state of the art. It's just going to be beautiful. So very excited and happy. We've worked really hard to make this come around. So with that, I'll leave on a good note, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wallman. And just let me mention to the council and to the audience that Councilwoman Wallman is being recognized on Thursday, the 10th, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 by the In the Company Women. And the In Company Women was organized in 1989. It recognizes outstanding women who have made significant contributions to the quality of life for Miami-Dade County community. Honored are pioneers who have opened new paths for women and honorees who provided leadership in many walks of life. And this is going to be at the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens on Thursday evening, on Thursday the 10th. So, Councilman Wallman, you'll certainly be congratulated for this distinguished award, and I hope all of the council members that couldn't make it will be part of it on Thursday. Congratulations. Councilwoman Garner.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with the Mayor's Youth Council update. The regular monthly meeting is Monday, March 14th. They have several events that they're going to be working on, including the Spring Fun Festival Mrs. Wallman spoke about. They're co-hosting that, so I hope to see you out there. They will also be participating in Relay for Life. This year we've moved Relay. It was usually a Friday night to a Saturday. This year it's going to be Saturday night to a Sunday. That's April 16th. I hope you all mark that on your calendar. This year's theme is countries, so look for the Youth Council in Egypt. Mr. Porter, I'm glad you brought up education earlier, because many of the residents on the east side, during the baseball stadium issues, they were asking for information. They wanted to know what was going on with the EFBD, with the 5-year plan. There was people from Portofino Bay and from Keys Gate that were requesting to have a meeting, so I've put together a meeting. It's going to be Thursday, March 24th at 6:30 at the baseball stadium clubhouse. It is open to all residents, but it is going to be on the east side because those residents asked me to do so. Ms. Greer will be there. She's going to be speaking about the 5-year plan. Mrs. Bell has graciously accepted also. She's going to speak about the EFBD. We're also going to include some information about the Waterstone and Oasis charter schools, because those are not included in the EFBD. We're going to try to get some maps so everyone knows what's where and who's included in what, just to clear up all the issues. So it'll probably be about 2 hours. We'll try to fit everything in. And I'll have this advertised and put out some flyers and try to get all the homeowners associations aware. But this is a very important meeting, and I hope to see all of you there, because I think it'll clear up a lot of the rumors and questions. And that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Garner. I have just a few items. One, Councilman Laws and I and the Vice Mayor and the manager and Marlene was at the Homestead Little League opening on Saturday morning, and I'll tell you, it was a fantastic event, and just hundreds of kids and parents and coaches. It was a very nice event, so I want to thank the Parks Department for being there and being part of that event. It's always a good event every year, and I was pleased with the turnout. I received a letter from Jose Mesa, the Executive Director of the Metro Planning Organization, referenced the Alternative Analysis Transit Study for South Miami-Dade Corridor between Dayland South Metro Rail Station and Florida City. So they've asked me to appoint 2 citizens to represent the City of Homestead as part of this Citizen Advisory Committee. So I've asked Councilman Porter and Julio and his staff to represent us on this Citizen Advisory Committee. And I'll give the letter to Mr. Porter, and you can share it with Julio, and may have to call him to see when the first meeting is scheduled. But it's very important that we provide input with this committee, with that corridor there that they're putting in. So pleased that you guys are willing to serve. My comment to you, Councilman Warren, I know we came up with the Homestead is Home slogan, and I assume the tourism committee is going to start putting signs up and doing some things to let the community know that that slogan is in place, and we just need to start using it, and people need to see it and embrace it.
And our problem, Mayor, is that the Tourism Committee never has any money budgeted, so I guess I can get with Elena and see if there's some money that we can use elsewhere. I want so badly to promote the slogan and promote Homestead, but when you don't have any money, it makes it really hard. So we do have a National Tourism Week coming up, and I see Lillian has left, and I don't remember when it is, but it is coming up soon in the next couple months. And we had some plans with Main Street and different organizations in town that we're going to try to put together a week-long festival for National Tourism Week. Just something going on every day, and that would be certainly a great time to launch our new slogan. And you know what, Mayor? I tip my hat to you. See, I should have used that tonight, and I forgot. So you used it, and I'm glad that I see that. I'd like to get some buttons made and some shirts made, and I'd like to see it more and more. I love it. I love the slogan, Homestead is Home.
I guess
it should be a welcoming thing, a big sign as you get off the turnpike. I mean, it should be all those things. But
maybe the Infrastructure Committee can find some money for you.
Yeah, how about that? I like that idea.
7.9 or 9.5.
I'll take whatever you give me. Believe me, I can spend it.
But that's all I have. Any comments from the audience? Any public comments at this time?
Yes, thank you, Chief Shiver. As President of Main Street, just wanted to announce this Saturday is a very exciting event taking place in downtown Homestead. Romero Brito will be kicking off the morning. It's I think, an all-day event starting at Art South, coming from Miami Beach's Art Gallery, bringing different artists with them, participating with the local artists on canvas here and actually painting in Homestead. So we'll have a pretty good turnout there. Also, the dance festivals, Donnelly Dance Studios, various other ethnic and culturally diverse dance groups are going to be in and around the streets of Homestead. So we would ask that you all come out and enjoy the good things that downtown Chrome and Homestead really has to offer. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, Mr. Shiver, before you leave, I just want to say that I was so blessed and so honored that Romero embraced the Angels, and he's donated a painting to our auction for Saturday night. So I just can't believe that the Angels have spread that far, and he embraced us, and he's donated a beautiful painting that's worth, I don't know, it could be worth $20,000 probably, 15.
He's pretty well known and getting better every day, so we're very excited to have him.
We're hoping he can stop by the casino night after he leaves the Main Street, but I'll be there too as well to say hello to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Give us your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to the council as well? My name is Angel, 2214 Northeast 41st Avenue. A lot of the new developments that are coming down here, they have CDDs, and the purpose of that, obviously, you're aware of, it's to finance the infrastructure, etc. That CDD is passed to the homeowner, so basically the homeowner is the one taking, the burden, number one, off of the builder, taking the burden off of the city. But at the same time, we're still paying our tax rate, or our tax burden to the city is the same, but we are taking on that burden away from the city. So I want to know, what can the city do to compensate for that benefit that the city's getting, not having to put up the infrastructure. I believe if my street has a pothole, we're going to pay for it as opposed to the city. How can that be compensated by the city?
I don't think legally can, David.
No, the benefits that you receive is in relation to the development that you enjoy and the quality of life that you have there, and that the method of paying for part of the expense is through the special assessments levied by the CDD board. And that is not something that's within the control of the city. The city has funds budgeted for numerous other city services that you, as well as everyone else in the city, enjoys, such as the police services and other related services. So unfortunately, there's no assistance that the city could offer you. What you're paying is part of the cost of enjoyment of the lifestyle that you've selected in that area.
All right. Another question I have is, does the city have like a cap on how many people can live, for let's say for the schools, a school problem, more and more people are coming in. Is there like a cap on how many, I don't know, children, households, or people per school that's going to be available? Or can just, people just keep coming here and then have nowhere to go to school at?
Just basically, let me comment on that. One is no, the city doesn't control that. That's Dade County School Board and the county schools. What the city has done is, I think, pretty aggressive, and then we're the only one in the county and probably the second one in the state, not waiting on when the Dade County School Board was going to be able to build these schools, but to create the EFBD. We also look favorably upon charter school placement in those developments, and really we didn't have much argument with the developer or the builders, but they put space away to provided land to put charter schools, knowing that at the time, I think we're in a much better place now than we were when we started those developments, because there's been some changes at the school board and they seem to be very aggressive. Evelyn Greer has done a tremendous job not only supporting the FBD through the school board and the county commission, but also getting that 5-year plan, keeping an eye on it, and I think Rudy Crew coming in has been a lot more aggressive in adding slots to the school. Unfortunately, it seems like as we develop here, and I don't think we're a whole lot different than most other places, that things don't get done until you trigger a certain threshold, and usually that threshold you're already overburdened, and then once you trigger that threshold and it starts to be addressed, then there's a time lag between when you get, when they start addressing, when it's completely built. We did not feel, and I'll say this, and this is I'll take my burden on saying this, when we started developing down here, it had been a long time for Homestead. We thought it was clearly unfair to Homestead and the citizens of Homestead to limit right off the bat construction because a third party, which we have no control over, was not doing their job from our perspective. And wasn't doing it, just not doing it here, they were not doing it all over the county. And we think that, or at least I felt during that time, and I'll just put my words into it, that it was a situation in which we needed to grasp the moment, handle the development here, which is going to make our city better in the long run, making it more sustainable for new residents here. May not have been aware of where we were prior to this building boom that we had, and it was a real difficult situation. So we had a lot of conversation about just what you're talking about, whether limiting things, and we decided we'd go the other route. We'd try to cure the shortages, and I think we've gone a long way doing that. The mayor and council have supported that, and I think that you're going to see, and thank God at the same time, that the school board has kind of, I think, gotten into gear now, realizing the situation, and are moving forward. So I think we've done a lot that we will address that as it goes, moves forward. But remember, you usually start anywhere here, you reached that threshold point and you're already overcrowded before they start doing something about it.
And I mean, the city can't require that the builder just builds his own school for you before you give him a permit?
Well, basically, many of the builders have provided their own school sites. I will say in the EFBD, Latner has got M&H Homestead, 3 school sites that they're donating for the schools, and they'll be building the first school in partnership with the public school system as soon as possible. They have the charter school at Waterstone coming up, and you'll have a charter school through that Renaissance project as well.
They're donating the land, they're not actually building the school.
Well, when they donate the land, they partner with a charter school person, because if they donate the land, it makes it good for a charter school business to come in. It gives them a head start. They're not buying the land.
Then why do we have to have the FBD if they're funding the school system?
The EFBD is an addition. That was something that we felt that we needed to do through the school board to continue the construction of schools down here to keep the pace. So I think what you're going to find, and if they come through on their 5-year plan, we'll be well taken care of down here for the schools. I think they're going up for this year close to 20,000 new student stations through the concretables and the things that they're doing. So, I mean, there is help on the way. It definitely is coming.
Okay. Well, just to sum it up, if you guys put a little more pressure on the, not pressure, but on the builders which have the big bucks, rather than, eventually what's happening with all the big builders is that all the expenses, be it the CDD, be it the school, be it the FBD, eventually winds up the burden winds up with the end user, which is the homeowner. So I mean, if we can keep that burden maybe a little bit more in the middle, I think it'd be better for the citizens, and you'd have less complaints, and you'd have less of the situations I think that are coming about and are continue to come about.
I'd just say one thing, and I'll shut up, about the FBD. One of the key elements of the FBD is the capture of those impact fees that have normally gone to Dade County School Board and get distributed over a very large area, not necessarily in the area where they were created. The EFBD captures the use of those impact fees to build schools right here. And then really what EFBD with the citizens, it becomes more of a sustaining project after that. Oh, that's all.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
And I'd like to add to the gentleman, he asked us whether or not we could limit the number of people that come here or go to the schools. Well, about 3 years ago, this council in effect did that when it enacted and then adopted a building moratorium capping, except in very limited circumstances, capping the remaining build out of this community at 6 units per acre. But what we're faced with is that adjoining municipalities and adjoining areas out in unincorporated Miami-Dade County do not exercise that restraint, and in many cases are 2, 2.5, 3 times that density. You've got to keep in mind that while we're limiting our density and creating quality of life and addressing the schools issues, and schools were the underpinning of the foundation of the whole moratorium study that we did, that existing and new development outside of the municipal limits of this city impact schools that you as a member of the city of Homestead, where your children attend, they're impacted by forces outside the community. So, to answer your question, we have in effect, by capping the maximum build out in this community, limited the number of Homestead children in the schools. And certainly with the EFBD and some of the charter schools, there are means by which Homestead children, in effect, have preference to attend those schools. So while right now you don't see the effect, I think by the time the next school year starts, you will see a major difference and a wide variety of choices. And again, as the manager and the mayor said, that's not only a coupling of the EFBD and the charter schools, but finally we have an elected school board that recognizes a true crisis situation. And this end of the county is, from all the presentations I've seen, getting the lion's share of new construction money on a fast track with an administration that knows how to use the money and get those schools built. Again, very, very valid and timely question. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Make one comment, maybe. Mr. Porter?
One thing that I hear of confusion a little bit of is the CDD. I agree with everyone that it creates a quality of life issue, but as a parent that doesn't have children, I still pay school taxes. As someone that didn't call the fire truck this year, I still paid for that service. So it's not that the CDD creates an inequity in the communities that they're developed or that they are over. It's going to guarantee a quality of life or a community that's going to be able to be better sustained because it's got its own mechanism taking care of it. But to say that the people in the CDD should necessarily not pay for this or that, I mean, we all pay in a one shape, form, or fashion for something that we don't consume on a day-to-day basis as a taxpayer, as a property owner. It's kind of a responsibility, it's a luxury, but as a property owner, we all pay for things even though we don't necessarily consume it directly. So, although it may appear that it's unfair, I think your communities that are being sustained by the CDD, your property values over the course of time will be extremely well preserved. And from the aspect of saying, that could you lower the taxes hypothetically in the CDD, by not having any children in the school system, should I not pay for my fair share of the public education? It gets to be a line that you can't even see. You can't, because you can't get there, because we all have to contribute for those types of services that we're so fortunate to have. So, just food for thought. I think the CDD, although they do bear the burden of the initial cost, it also protects that investment over time, and it keeps those communities above the normal standard that maybe a municipality may or may not be able to maintain it at. But it's not any less fair than someone that doesn't have children to have to pay school taxes. Strictly an opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other comments? If not, thank you all very much for coming out.